The lawyer cleared his throat, looked straight at me, and said, "We need to address something that was posted publicly." And then he read my cousin's words out loud, word for word. Let me ask you something. What kind of family secret is so big it ends up being exposed by a joke online? Because in that moment, sitting in that cold, silent room, I realized something terrifying. Whatever my cousin Lydia had posted months ago, it wasn't a joke anymore. It was evidence. My name is Amara. I'm 24, and for as long as I can remember, I've always felt like I didn't fully belong in my own family. Not in a dramatic way, no big fights, no obvious rejection, just small things, quiet things, the kind of things you can't explain, but you feel them anyway. Like how conversations would stop when I walked into a room, or how certain family stories were told without ever including me, or how my mom, Nadine, would get this tight, nervous smile anytime I asked about my early childhood. At the time, I told myself I was overthinking, until Lydia made that post. It was late, I was scrolling like everyone else, and then I saw it. A picture of Lydia laughing with her friends, and underneath it, a caption, "Some families have secrets. Ours has a whole person we pretend doesn't exist." At first, I laughed. I even almost liked the post. But then I paused, because something about it felt off. Too specific, too pointed. And then I noticed the comments. People asking questions, people tagging each other, and one reply that said, "Wait, are you talking about Amara?" My stomach dropped. I wanted to brush it off. I really did. But after that post, things changed. People started looking at me differently. My mom got quieter, and Lydia, she acted like nothing happened. Until months later, when everything came crashing together. Because after my grandfather, Elias, suddenly called for a legal meeting about the family estate, I got invited. The one who was never involved, never included. And when I walked into that room, I could feel it. The tension, the silence, the secrets. Then the lawyer opened a file, adjusted his glasses, and said, "Before we proceed, there's something we need to address." And that's when Lydia's post came back. Not as a joke, but as the beginning of the truth no one was ready to hear. Because what he said next would change everything I thought I knew about my family and about myself. At first, I told myself it was just a joke. But deep down, I knew something didn't feel right, because jokes don't make entire rooms go silent when you walk in. Let's rewind to the day Lydia posted it. It was a normal evening, nothing dramatic. Lydia was at some rooftop party, laughing, holding a drink, surrounded by people who always seemed to orbit around her. She thrived on attention, always had. And then she posted that caption, "Some families have secrets. Ours has a whole person we pretend doesn't exist." At first glance, it was easy to dismiss. Lydia joked about everything. She pushed boundaries. That was her thing. So I texted her, "Wow, dramatic much. Who's the secret person?" She replied almost instantly, "Relax, it's not that deep." Not that deep. But if it wasn't about anything serious, why did it feel like it was aimed directly at me? Over the next few days, something changed. Family group chats went quiet whenever I joined. At a small dinner, I caught my aunt whispering to my mom, and they both stopped the second I walked over. Even my younger cousins, they kept glancing at me like they knew something I didn't. Have you ever felt that? Like you're the only person in the room missing a piece of the story? That's exactly what it felt like. Confronting Lydia. Again. I tried to bring it up casually the next time I saw her in person. "So, your post, people think it's about me." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Amara, please, not everything is about you." But here's the thing. She didn't deny it. Not once. And that's when the doubt really started creeping in. Old memories start making sense. Suddenly, things from my childhood didn't feel random anymore, like why there were barely any photos of me as a baby in my grandfather's house, or why certain family events happened without me, and no one could explain why, Or how my mom, Nadine, would get this tight, nervous smile anytime I asked about my early childhood. At the time, I told myself I was overthinking, until Lydia made that post. A week later, I went back to look at Lydia's post again. Gone. Deleted. No explanation, no follow-up, nothing. But that didn't mean it disappeared, because screenshots, they were still circulating. Quietly, privately, and one of my cousins accidentally showed me one before quickly pulling their phone away like they'd made a mistake. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a careless joke. This was something people recognized, something they understood instantly, something about me. And in that moment, a single thought settled in my mind and refused to leave. What if Lydia didn't just say something reckless? What if she accidentally exposed something my entire family had been hiding from me my whole life? If it was just a joke, then why did my mom look like she was about to cry every time I brought it up? That was the part I couldn't ignore. Not Lydia's attitude, not the whispers. My mom. Because Nadine wasn't dramatic. She wasn't emotional in public. She was controlled, careful, always composed. But after that post, she wasn't. Every time I even hinted at it, her entire body changed. Her shoulders tensed, her voice tightened, and once, just once, I saw something I had never seen before. Fear. So I stopped waiting for answers, and I started looking for them. Digging into the past. I began asking questions, but carefully. I approached my aunt first, keeping my tone light. Hey, random question. Was there ever, a big family secret growing up? She laughed. Too quickly. Every family has secrets. Then she changed the subject. I tried my uncle next. Same thing. Vague answers, avoided eye contact, immediate deflection. It was like everyone had rehearsed the same response. Except one person. Almost a slip. One afternoon, I caught my older aunt, Mariel, alone in the kitchen. I brought it up again, more directly this time. That post Lydia made, it was about me, wasn't it? She froze. Not for long, just a second, but it was enough. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to say something real. And then she stopped herself. Amara, you should talk to your mother. That was it. That was the closest anyone had come to the truth, and they still didn't say it. The discovery. A few days later, I was helping my mom clean out an old storage box. Nothing unusual, just papers, photos, documents, until I found it. A hospital record. Old, slightly faded, but clear enough to read. My name was on it, but the date didn't match the one I had grown up knowing, and the surname listed under father, it wasn't ours. My heart started pounding. Mom, what is this? The reaction was instant. She rushed over, snatched the paper out of my hands, and shoved it back into the box. You shouldn't be going through that. Her voice was sharp, defensive, almost panicked. Confrontation. I didn't let it go this time. No, you don't get to do that. What is going on? She looked at me, and for a moment, I thought she was going to tell me everything. Her eyes filled with tears. And then she said something that made everything worse. Some things are better left alone. Better left alone? My entire identity didn't feel like something that should be left alone. And then, just when everything already felt like it was unraveling, we got the call. My grandfather, Elias, had ordered a full legal review of the family estate. Everyone had to attend, no exceptions, including me, which made no sense, because I was never involved in anything like that. Until now. Lydia's behavior changed. Even Lydia started acting different. Quieter, nervous. She deleted more old posts, avoided being alone with me, and one day, as she passed by, she muttered something under her breath. You should stop digging. Not a joke. A warning. That same night, one of my cousins sent me something. A screenshot. Lydia's original post. But this time, I didn't read it like a joke. I read it like a message, a clue. And suddenly, every word felt intentional. That's when I made a decision. Whatever my family was hiding, whatever Lydia had exposed, I wasn't going to guess anymore. Because in that legal meeting, I was going to hear the truth, even if it broke everything. The moment the lawyer said my name first, I knew this wasn't just about money. This was about who I really was. The room felt too small, too quiet. Every chair was filled, family members lined up on both sides of the long table, avoiding eye contact, shifting uncomfortably, like they all knew something I didn't. And at the head of the table sat Mr. Kofi Mensah, the family lawyer. Calm, precise, unreadable. He opened a thick file, pages neatly organized, tabs marked, evidence. Then he said it. Before we proceed with the estate distribution, there are discrepancies we must address. Discrepancies. That word alone made my chest tighten. He began outlining inconsistencies in family records, dates that didn't match, documents that had been altered, missing information. And with every sentence, I could feel it, the tension rising, pressing down on everyone in that room. No one spoke, no one interrupted, because they already knew where this was going. All except me. Then he paused, looked around the room, and said something that made my stomach drop. We also need to address a public statement that may indicate prior knowledge of these inconsistencies. Public statement? No, there was no way. But then he turned a page and read it out loud. Some families have secrets. Ours has a whole person we pretend doesn't exist, LOL. Lydia's post. Right there in that room. In that moment, it stopped being a joke forever. I turned to look at her. Her face had gone pale. She shook her head slightly, whispering, "I didn't mean..." But her voice trailed off. My mother? She broke. Tears streaming down her face, hands trembling in her lap. And the rest of the family? They didn't look shocked. They looked exposed, like something buried had just been dragged into the light. Mr. Mensah continued, his voice steady. This estate is to be distributed based on direct biological lineage. My heart started racing, because suddenly, this wasn't just about a secret. This was about identity, about truth, about me. I looked at my mother. She couldn't meet my eyes. Lydia stared down at the table, completely silent now. And for the first time in my life, I realized something terrifying. Everyone in that room knew who I was, except me. Mr. Mensah picked up one final document, paused, then looked directly at me. Not at my mother, not at Lydia, me. And he said, slowly, "Amara, you were never meant to be hidden." The room felt like it stopped breathing. You were meant to be protected. Protected from what? Or more importantly, protected from who? Protected. That word echoed in my head as the silence stretched across the room. Then Mr. Mensah placed the final document in front of me. "Amara," he said calmly, "you are the biological daughter of Elias's late son, Daniel." I blinked. Once, twice, trying to process it. Daniel, my grandfather's first son, the one no one talked about, the one who left years ago and never came back. My father. Not the Van I grew up believing was barely part of the picture, but him. Mr. Mensah continued, laying it all out clearly. Years ago, Daniel had a relationship the family didn't approve. When I was born, the situation threatened the family's reputation, something my grandfather valued above everything. So they made a decision. They hid me. My mother, Nadine, stepped in and raised me as her own under a different narrative. The records were altered, dates adjusted, names shifted, not to erase me, but to control the story. Why Lydia's post mattered. Lydia hadn't known everything, but she had found pieces, old files, fragments of the truth. She posted it as a joke, but legally, it proved something critical, that the secret wasn't perfectly hidden, that there had been awareness, discussion, even if careless, and that changed everything. Because the estate depended on direct lineage, and I wasn't just part of the family. I was one of the closest heirs. I didn't know what I felt first. Shock? Anger? Relief? Maybe all of it at once. I looked at my mother, no, Nadine, and for the first time I saw her not just as my parent, but as someone who had carried a burden for years. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice breaking. Tears streamed down her face. "I was trying to protect you," she whispered, "from them, from how they would treat you." And suddenly, everything made sense. The distance, the silence, the way I was always just slightly outside of everything. It wasn't accidental. It was designed. The legal outcome was immediate. The estate distribution had to be revised. My name, my real place in the family, couldn't be ignored anymore. I was granted a significant share, and that changed the dynamic instantly. Some family members supported me quietly. Others, they resented me openly. Lydia faced the harshest backlash. What she thought was a harmless post ended up exposing everything. People blamed her for the timing, for the chaos, for forcing the truth into the open. She tried to apologize, but some things don't go back. The story didn't stay in that room. The post resurfaced online, this time with context. And instead of jokes, people saw the truth. Not the child no one talks about, but the child who was hidden. And in the end, I was the one thing they couldn't control anymore.